Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another Midnight Mirage Classic in the School of Higher Learning. So this video is for a man or a woman who has not made long-term commitments yet in his life as it pertains to having children, long-term relationships, and maybe even certain things with your career and other endeavors. So in other words, things that, once you make these decisions in this life and you go down certain roads, you can't turn back. Or if you do turn back, it's going to be very, 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 very hard and extremely difficult. All right. So we're talking about serious, life-altering, life-changing decisions. All right. This video is very, very important for those people. So, you could be a young person, or maybe you are a little bit older, but you just haven't made certain choices yet and you're contemplating on them. Right. I want you to gain a lot from this video and, a little bit of the wisdom that I, hope you can receive from it. In the early 2000s, I can remember when my father got me and my brother the Nintendo 64. And, one of my favorite video games of all time is GoldenEye 007. All right, GoldenEye 007. What I used to like about this game was, of course, multiple things, but it had 4 controllers. And, back then it was very, very big to be able to have, all your friends and, y'all can play the game, 4 people playing it. You had a split screen, free for all. You could do a lot of different stuff on that video game. And it was, a good tool to use to socialize with people. And the video game had a lot of different guns, a lot of different features. But one that was always very special to me was it was a weapon that it had called the Golden Gun. And the Golden Gun was basically a weapon where it had 1 bullet, but it was a 1-shot kill. And whatever you hit, whatever was your target, if it got hit with the Golden Gun bullet, then you took your target down. All right. So in other words, it had 100%, effectiveness, but you had 1 shot. So that means that you had to be very, very patient and you had to be strategic on what you would shoot. All right. So I'll give you an example of how you would use the Golden Gun. So let's say if you have the Golden Gun, and, you cornered, you know what I'm saying? Let's say it's 4 people that's cornering you and you having a shootout, right? And you sitting here behind this wall. The mindset with the Golden Gun would be, I need to figure out a proficient way to use this. If it's 4 men and I only have 1 bullet, I'm not going to be able to hit all 4 of them with that 1 bullet. But if there's a gas tank next to those 4 men, then I could shoot the gas tank and it will blow up the 4 men. So I'll use this 1 bullet on the gas tank versus being inefficient and trying to shoot one of the men. Does that make sense? So the Golden Gun is something that is guaranteed to work. You just got to be wise about when you shoot it, and you got to hit the right target, the right specific target. All right. So Blackbeard, why are you using this GoldenEye analogy? Okay, let's get into it. So as I said, when it comes to making certain life-altering choices like having children, marriage, let's stick to having children and marriage right now as our backdrop to this. A couple of weeks ago, I was hanging out with a few brothers, and 2 of these brothers are married. 2 of them are married, and they have multiple children apiece, and they're in their early to mid 30s, both of them, right? Some good brothers, you know what I'm saying? Some good people or whatever, right? So, I pulled up to see them, we was chopping it up for a little minute, and I was going to leave, but one of them asked me, he was like, man, chill for a minute or whatever. Like, just kind of hang out and stuff. So I like, fuck it. Ain't nothing going on, right? So I was able to just change my mind in an instant and just hang out. Because initially I pulled up just to see what they had going on. And then I was going to keep it moving, right? So one of them, he was laughing. He was like, you see what you just did? I said, what? He said, you see how you decided to just hang out with us, and even though you was going to dip, but you could just change your mind and just kick it? I said, yeah, like, what's the big deal about that? He said, once you get married, you can't do that kind of stuff no more. So his homeboy, he started kind of laughing or whatever. And then a conversation starts, right? For one, let me give you some wisdom real quick. There is no stronger truth than the words of a married man when he's away from his wife. Let me say that one more time. There is no stronger truth than the words of a married man when he is away from his wife. Because when he's away from his wife, not saying that he's disloyal or, talks bad about her or the family, but he can speak his true thoughts and he can speak his true feelings and emotions. And in this situation, these brothers were doing that. Me, I'm not a judgmental type of person. And I listen and I ask questions, So, I made that kind of, I created an environment where like, let's talk, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all go deeper into this. So I kind of just started asking them about their marriage and, what they thought about it and the pros and cons, things of that nature. And of course, there was multiple things they said, but I kind of want to just talk about certain stuff. One of the things that one of the brothers said, and this one brother, he's about a year and a half older than me, but he was saying that, and what was so powerful about it was like, well, we were sitting here talking now. Everybody like looking each other in the eyes, you know what I'm saying? So like these are three grown men having a serious conversation, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting back listening, because I'm not married. So I'm quiet. I'm letting these brothers talk. I'm just asking questions. But I'll never forget the feeling when one of the brothers, he looked me dead in my face and he was like, man, he just talked about how, when you get married, a lot of times it changes you. Like you don't even really be the same person you were that you were before you got into marriage. And he wasn't saying it from like a negative or a bad standpoint, but, and maybe not even necessarily certain things about your like character and personalities or like a flaw, but you just changed on how you could move. Like that one example, like how I was able to just kick it. And he was saying that when you married, nothing is about you anymore. Like, everything's about the family. You can't just hang out or something like that. You got to always be thinking about what responsibility or what is it that you got to do later on. Another thing I asked the brothers, and I already knew the answer to this because I saw how they were living, and even for brothers that may not have a lot of money and stuff like that. But I asked them, I said, is marriage expensive? Now, mind you, I'm realistically, I asked three brothers this question like in the last, I would say, month. And the first brother I asked this, you know what I'm saying? He answered the same way as the last two. And I asked both of them this question about maybe 3-4 weeks apart. So they didn't even know I was going to ask either one of them this question. But I could just remember them asking them, is marriage expensive? And how big their eyes got and just how almost like pale their face got. They was just like, bro, that shit expensive as fuck. And one of them, he just hit the blunt. Like he literally looked at me and he was like, bro, that shit expensive as fuck. And he just got quiet and he just hit the blunt. And then I just was looking like, damn, like I really could feel in the air like how serious they were. Like, they were just talking about how, it's expensive. Of course, their children be wanting things as they get older, little stuff like that. Things that are understandable, of course, but nevertheless, when you're a parent, you have to watch your money and be, you got to be on point with your money because it's things the family need and things that these children need that may come up out of nowhere. Versus if you're a single person and you don't have children, you may have a certain financial discipline, but it increases. It has to increase once you got these extra layers of responsibility, So that's basically what those brothers was telling me. Now, overall, they weren't saying like getting married was something bad, but I can tell you this, and this was interesting when they said it. So one of the brothers, he asked me, he said, are you married or do you have children? And I said, no, just casually, because I don't. And he just kind of looked at me and shook his head, and he was just like, he was like, see, my single homeboys that don't have children, he's like, man, sometimes y'all don't be knowing like shit. Y'all low-key be having a nigga jealous, and he was just kind of making a little joke and shit. But I could feel where he was coming from, basically, because, it's really just that like certain, it's not even really the freedom and independence. That's a little bit of it, but also like the extra layers of responsibility. They talked about that. And they also talked about how, when you have a disagreement with your wife, how emotionally intense, these disagreements and some of these verbal confrontations are. Because I can remember one saying that, a lot of times, man, they may have gotten a little argument or whatever. And, how if he didn't have children and stuff, he would have left. You know what I'm saying? And how a lot of times people stay in these relationships and they end up loving their child more than they spouse, but that's the person you came into it with. So it's like now you're really only holding everything down because these children are there, whereas it was like y'all started it together. But anyway, so and it was just a couple more things they said, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. But one of the brothers, he ended up having children, when he was, a little bit younger, in his early 20s. But he just talked about basically just the, just the responsibility that comes with it, right? And it's understandable because when you have children and a wife and a family, you got to be responsible. But overall, they were happy about their marriage. It wasn't nothing like they was like trying to get a divorce or wanting to get away from their wives. But they just understood the pros and cons with it, And another thing, one of the brothers talked about somebody else that he knows, and he said, I think the guy works like in the flight industry, all right? So, and so he's going to all these different states and cities and all these different places. And he was saying how the guy was telling him that, he done had all these different women in all these states and cities. And you know what I'm saying? He kind of be feeling like he want to settle down and this, that, and the third. And the brother I was with, he told me, he said, why this dude was telling him that, he said he was just saying in his mind, like, dude, why are you telling me this? Like, it's a problem. He was like, dude, you want to hear real problems? And he just kind of started laughing, like, basically saying, like, nigga, I would basically kill to have that problem, and then one of the other things they did say too is that, it was multiple pros to it, but one of them was that process of like trying to get to know somebody, that phase when you just meet somebody and you getting their number and those first initial conversations and, getting to learn the person and that whole long time period that you got to do that. They were saying that they couldn't do that again. Like if the marriage wouldn't work, then, the brothers would probably just go back to being single and rocking out like that. And whether I meet men that in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, they all say the same thing. They all say that, either if they were to get a divorce, that they wouldn't remarry, or if the ones that are divorced, that they won't ever do that again, basically. You know what I'm saying? And something else that was interesting, one of the brothers was telling me that, that his father is in like his 60s, but he can see his father, trying to basically, now that he's a little bit older and he's raised his own children, his father's in his 60s, his father want to kind of get out there and do little things that maybe he didn't get to do since he had to be a parent, so that's why you'll see certain people when they get in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and they'll have like a extra burst of vitality because, they may have raised their children and their children are being able to, take care of themselves. So now they can kind of do what they want to do. So you see that sometimes when somebody may be in their 50s, 60s, and 70s and they've had children and stuff like that, right? So tying all this back to the golden gun analogy, right? What I got to tell you is this. You need to wait to attempt your first shot at marriage and parenthood or fatherhood until you're ready, so there won't be no sorrow added to it. You need to wait because when it comes to like choosing the right woman, you want to be at the right financial status, the right mental, emotional status, and you need a certain level of knowledge and wisdom and experience in this life. And the truth is, I'm gonna just be real with you, brothers. Like, when you in your 20s and you're not there, you know what I'm saying? Your early 20s, your mid 20s, your late 20s, even your early 30s, like you still are acquiring, the knowledge and wisdom, the life experience. So you're not really there yet. You're not really equipped to be a father and a leader like that. I'm gonna just be honest with you. You're not. And I'll be honest too. The mental and emotional development, the life experiences and leadership, that's much more important than the money part. So you can have the money part, let's say in your 20s. Let's say like you may be an athlete or an entertainer, or, you may have you a good corporate job or whatever the case may be. And you may make a lot of money, right? And let's say you may be 25 or 28 or 30, let's say. You may have the money, but ask yourself, do you really have the mental and emotional maturity and development? And do you have the life experiences really? You know what I'm saying? Like, what have you really experienced in life? See, I can tell you with myself, when my father had me, he was 40 years old. Okay. So Blackbeard's father is 40 years older than him. All right. So when my father had me, he was like a real grown man. And I don't mean that just because he had a mustache. No, I mean like his thought process. Like, now that I'm older and I look back on how my father just interacted with me when I was younger, how he used to talk to me, the things he would talk about, how he was trying to prepare my mind to be a chess player, why he was serious about certain stuff. The reason why he was like that is because he had a lot of life knowledge and experience. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I was in my teenage years and, early teens and stuff like that, like this man is in like his 50s, so he knew a lot. And I just saw how he was able to, give me, my brother and sister a lot of knowledge and wisdom. And I saw how he was able to teach my mother certain things too, So if he was younger, you know what I'm saying? Like had my dad had me 10 years earlier when he was 30, it wouldn't have been the same. I wouldn't be the same Blackbeard that I am right now. The reason why I was so advanced at such an early age and why I already knew about things like Freemasonry, the Illuminati, the financial system, entrepreneurship, racism, history, having to, know how to stay down and come up, knowing how to persevere. The reason why I knew all that stuff at such an early age, like early middle school age, early high school age, the reason why I knew all that, and a lot of my contemporaries didn't, is because their fathers were probably younger when they had them. Their fathers weren't mentally probably as developed as mine was. So if your father is older when he has you, that means he's going to be able to jumpstart you much earlier. Let me say that one more time. If your father is a little bit older when he has you, let's say between, 35, 40, 45. If your father has you during them years, when he's starting to get at his mental, spiritual, and financial prime, trust me, if he have you in those years, he's going to be able to jumpstart you a lot earlier than if he would have had you when he was younger. And that's just facts, I'm just taking myself as an example in this. Like, I'm a case study of it. Like, when I was growing up, yeah, most of my homeboys my age, like, them niggas didn't know the shit that I knew. Like, you gotta remember, like, while they talking about the NBA Finals, game one, the Lakers just lost to Allen Iverson. You know what I'm saying? Like, we go from talking about that, and then I jump straight to talking about the Illuminati or Freemasonry. We talking about 2001, 2002, 2003. Blackbeard been on this shit. And it really go back to like the mid 90s when I was much younger. My father was already telling me this stuff. So he was older. He had much more wisdom, and he was able to give it to me. And a lot of the wisdom that I've been giving to you all throughout the years with this channel, if you've learned from me and you feel like, okay, Blackbeard has a lot of insight on stuff, well, a lot of what you getting from me, that came from Blackbeard's father. That came from Father Mirage. You know what I'm saying? Mother Mirage. It came from them because they were older. My father was 40. My mother was 31. So just think about that. Like, if you want your child to be somewhat like a Blackbeard and be advanced early, because I was advanced very early. If you want that, then you need to be patient about when you shoot that golden gun. All right? Be very patient. You got to make a lot of sacrifices for your family. You know what I'm saying? As a father, you got to be present. You can't be wanting to be out in the streets and still do this and do that. And, just take the time and be patient and become a father and a leader of the household and a husband when you're ready for it, because a lot of the times the family going to need you at home. So you can't be out hanging out in the streets, and unless the family is with you wherever you at, your children going to have functions and things that they want to do. Your wife may want to hang out and little stuff like that. And ain't nothing wrong with that. But if you still young, you're going to still kind of want to be in the streets and hang out or, do certain stuff. You know what I'm saying? And you ain't going to want to be locked down in the house like that. So why not wait until you're a little bit older where you're already naturally inclined to want to be a little more reserved and kick it in the house? Because as you start aging and getting older, you don't want to keep being out in the streets and, out late all kind of hours, 12, 1, 2 a.m. and, just roaming the city like we do. Like, when you get older, you ain't gonna want to do that as much. So why not wait to have a family then when you already naturally inclined to want to be at home? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the rush? Like, a lot of brothers, y'all make these moves like y'all think y'all gonna die in 2 or 3 decades. Like, no, my guy, you finna be here a good minute. The Most High got a lot of good potential realities for you. So don't trick yourself off the streets by making a move just because you think you're going to be out of here. Like, I remember when I was in middle school, like when I was 11, 12, 13, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can remember dudes really saying like, bro, I'm probably not really going to be past 25. Like, I remember, people thinking like that. Because back then we thought 25, we thought that shit was like 30 or 40. I mean, I didn't think that, but a lot of, other young guys in the streets, I remember how they thought. They used to look at it like that's old. But I knew that it wasn't because my parents were telling me certain things. And I knew my parents were much older than that. So I knew like, no, it ain't bad like that. Cause my parents got stupid sauce. So I'm like, nigga, that shit ain't true, but a lot of guys used to think like that. So now they crashing out. Now they feel like they got to get money real fast. Now they got to have unprotected sex real fast. Now they releasing and running off in women and getting them pregnant. You know what I'm saying? Like they moving too fast. They using up too much of their life energy. Like niggas be using up, like in this life, your body and your life energy has a capacity to it. Like nigga be using damn near 30-40% of his life energy from the age of like 15 to 30. Like, man, you niggas be like burnt out by your mid to late 20s. Like you already burnt out. It's like you done already done too much. Like I knew people that was having sex real early, like in middle school and stuff. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you burnt out, But that's just facts. And it's like, it's going to be a lot of sorrow added too, man. Like when you don't have the discipline and you just do that, because ain't nothing like it. And I'm going to tell you something else that they was telling me. Like one of them was telling me that with his business, that last year, things was like, kind of drying up a little bit. So he had to, re-envision some things and like rework his business, right? And he was saying that during that time period, his wife wasn't really able to shop as much. And she wasn't really able to get as much stuff as she want. He said she was making him feel that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's some real shit. He was like, like little subtle attitudes, little subtle emotional mood swings. Like if the woman ain't able to really get the things she wants because the family money is kind of, on a constraint right now, or the man going through a change with his job or something like that. Not saying that the woman won't be supportive, because a lot of them will. But man, I'm gonna just keep it real with you, bro. Like at some point you're gonna feel some kind of either indirect or subconscious wrath from your woman because things aren't complete. And, and I understand that because the woman has a biological instinct to worry about her security and her safety, and having, financial instruments and resources is a big part of that. So I understand their nature, but as a man, I'm telling you, boy, you don't want that pressure on you until you ready, boy. You don't want that smoke. You don't want that smoke, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like, you better wait and get your career all the way right. You know what I'm saying? Wait, bro. Whether you're doing a career or you're doing a business, just wait. Let it grow. You ain't got to rush. Don't let none of these women rush you. You ain't got no biological clock. You know what I'm saying? Look at some of the people in biblical history. Abraham and Sarah, they had children when they were a little older. Yeah, today we may not be living to be 900 years old, but let's take the same ratio and the same principle. Like, you still need to be a little older when you have children. Because at the end of the day, you got to be able to lead them. Like, see, my father was able to lead and guide me in a certain way, to where once I got to like once I got in my early 20s, and I wasn't really in communication with my father as much, although I still wanted to have him around and talk to him, even to this day. But I can say this, he did already prepare me and sent me out on a mission. It's almost like an Army Ranger, when he in Ranger school, because I think they in Ranger school for like 8 weeks. Or let's say if you Navy SEALs or if you Delta Force or whatever, it's like you train in school, but once they send you off to war, you got to use your training now on the battlefield. And that's pretty much how my father did me. You know what I'm saying? He was there from, of course, before I was born, in my mother's womb, out of my mother's womb, my childhood, or really my baby years, my infant years, my childhood years, my preteen years, my toddler years, then my puberty years. And then once it got to like my late teens, early 20s, going into like my, let's say, first phase of early adulthood, that's when he basically, you know what I'm saying? He was like, all right, bro, like, you're an Army Ranger now, basically. So it was all subconscious. This wasn't like something verbally implied, But it was like, you know, I trained you. You're an Army Ranger now. Like, really, now you go out there and conquer this shit and do something that I couldn't even do. It really was something like that. So, to wrap it up, man, like, you are the man with the golden gun, bro. The bullet gonna hit whatever you shoot, and you gonna get the target. But don't be inefficient and don't be ineffective. Be patient. Don't hit that bra unprotected. Put the rubber on, bro. Put the rubber on, bro. Don't take that job if you don't really want it. Don't hop in the car and slide and do that gang initiation if you don't really want that, bro. Like, these life-altering decisions, be very patient and strategic about that, my guy. And be very, very, very careful. Because once you make certain moves, you know, you can't turn around. Or if you do turn around, it's going to be a lot of sorrow at it. So hopefully you guys got some wisdom from this. Hit us up in the comment section. We out.